Gambling in BC is big business, whether it's the lottery or the casino. Total revenue for 2010-2011 equaled almost $2.7 billion. Of that, the provincial government took $1.1 billion. As well, municipalities receive money from casinos in their cities. But when the economy takes a hit, so too does gaming revenue. Dana Hutchings is here with more in tonight's Checkpoint.
Jim, the Great Canadian Gaming Corporation recently released its financial results, and revenues are down as at casinos in Nanaimo and View Royal. The drop means less money for both municipalities, which receive 10% of the casino's revenue. And as Kendall Hansen reports, that could have an impact on taxpayers.
When you take a look at the packed parking lot and steady stream of people coming and going from Nanaimo's casino, it would be tough for a betting person to wager revenues are down. But they are, dropping yet again in 2011.
We've seen over the past few years, since approximately 2007, that there's been a drop in the revenue that we've received from the casino. So in last year we received just under $2.5 million when we were anticipating receiving about $2.7 million based on previous years.
When the Nanaimo casino opened, the corporation and city hit a jackpot. Yes! Outstanding. It was the first on Vancouver Island, a draw that attracted busloads of gamblers from all over. 2 years later, the Great Canadian Casino opened its second casino in View Royal. And in more recent years, 4 gaming centres have opened on Vancouver Island, including Rimrock in Alberni, one in Courtenay, Campbell River, and Cowichan. The increased competition has impacted the Great Canadian Casino's bottom line at a tough economic time.
Gaming revenues aren't affected just in Nanaimo. They're across Canada, in fact North America and the world. We're in a global recession. People have only so much entertainment dollars to spend, and that's usually bottom on their list. And therefore, obviously, Nanaimo is going to be impacted by that.
The drop in revenue at the Great Canadian Casinos is also bad news for its host municipalities that get a 10% rake of earnings. For the town of View Royal, one of the municipalities sharing the casino's revenue, it's receiving $125,000 less than in 2010. That represents a potential 2% tax increase for its residents. In Nanaimo, residents will also be hit by the drop in revenue.
Well, it means one of two things. We would either have to reduce the amount of services we're providing by that $200,000 or increase property taxes a proportional amount, and that would be equal to about 0.25% of taxes.
Any decline is obviously alarming, and we want to do our best to reverse that trend. And hopefully, as the quarters come, as us as a public company, we'll be able to see some positive changes.
The Great Canadian Casino says it's investing in its Nanaimo location because the company believes it has a bright future. The impacted municipal councils have yet to determine how the drop in revenue will impact its residents.
And our checkpoint question tonight, have governments become too reliant on gambling revenue? Jim, it isn't just municipalities that depend on money from gambling. The province also receives a $1.1 billion a year from gaming revenue. So we wanted to know, have governments become too reliant on gambling revenue? Here are some of your answers from Campbell River and Victoria.
Given the fluctuations, with the economy, it's not something you should really be depending on. And I mean, it's sort of this, they have this counteractive strategy where they're trying to get people off gambling at the same time they are dependent on the revenue. So it's not great for the economy. I mean, it's not a great strategy.
We do benefit from the results. I think the government, and I'm speaking specifically of the provincial government, should perhaps put more money from the gambling revenues towards charities and other community-based groups.
Seemed to be a waste of money. They said they'd spend it for health and children's sports and education, but we don't see the results of that.
No, they should rely on other things, like not just the gambling money.
No, I don't think so. What I think is, first of all, the government should have never allowed such a drug to be out there, because I think casinos are drugs.
Roxy says, yes, they have become too reliant, but that does not mean they should just go back to the well and expect taxpayers to pick up the shortfall. It's time governments learn to live within their means, just like they expect the rest of us to do. Crytek says, yes, why should the government use revenue from gambling to balance their budget? They should merely use it as a surplus for extra projects. And Rick says, a little tongue-in-cheek maybe? You bet. And the results of our web poll, 84% say yes, they are too reliant, while 16% say no, they are not. By the way, if you're wondering what the provincial government does with its share of gambling revenue, $135 million goes to nonprofit organizations, $147 million goes to a special health account, and the majority, close to $700 million, goes to support other government programs. And that's tonight's Checkpoint.